Smudging the canvas like Rembrandt, Christina Onsrud is taking finger painting to another level, aiming for dreamy atmospheres akin to the works of Helene Skjerfbeck and Olga Bosnanska. Aside from the Eastern European influence, she follows in the footsteps of the old masters and has been doing so with conviction whilst under the tutelage of Odd Nerdrum. After getting her basic training at the Florence Academy in Italy, Onsrud has employed storytelling in her work and swapped the academic technique for a more translucent rendering of the human figure. I visit her to attend an hour-long session as she starts painting on a new self-portrait. What are your plans now?
To not make a complete fool out of myself and to paint a portrait, a self-portrait. I'm going to do my best attempt today to paint myself on this little piece of canvas. So.
But you're really
flat.
quite frontal.
Very frontal, very flat light. So
not very Baroque.
No, not exactly, but it's a bit fun to to not only have this darkened.
Well,
light.
I mean, I remember that self-portrait we had on the wall, made by you, for our conversation, and it's you're really good at this sober, very slightly cool, warm contrast.
Thank you. Now I feel that it's. I think that's quite interesting to work with, trying to make this flat light and to make form, not only using light and shadow, but also by temperature, and to kind of keep it soft and atmospheric, which is something I tried to challenge myself doing after leaving the academy, because then you have this very clear that you should have a third of shadow, a third of mid-tone, and a third of light.
Okay.
So we did that all the time, and it became very automatic, and I don't know, it didn't quite feel at home. And I saw these other paintings that was more, atmospheric and nice, and I thought that I want to try to do this also, and to combine that with some, like, really focusing on an expression, or the eyes in particular. That's something I try to do.
Right.
And so I don't know if I will be able to show you all of that today, because I take a million years to finish a painting.
I can identify with that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's always if I do the painting videos, I think, like, why am I doing this? Because it takes me, like, I have to get this going, and then after a while, now it starts to become something, and then it's like, okay, now we're at the stage where I can actually show it to someone.
Yes.
Okay, but no more postponing here, no more what do you call it when you're
delaying?
Yes.
Or stalling. Yeah. I don't know. Yes, so now it's time to begin. And now it's only possibilities, and I'll wreck it very quickly. Okay, wait, let's see. Let me start with this one. Okay, so I usually start when I do a portrait as I already did here, like a top and a bottom somewhat, to kind of try to figure out my parameters or what I need to do. And I know everyone has their weaknesses and like their strengths also. I feel like it's mostly weaknesses, but it's,
if you're aware of them, it's fine.
I always make the head too big, which is something that you really do not want to do. You want to make it like slightly smaller than life size, sorry, if possible. And I know my tendency is like to expand and to grow.
So
and I
you
always
start small,
then it's like escalates like past the frame of the canvas. It's a problem. But then if I like try to mark like the top and the bottom, and now I'm trying to do this frontal. So I try to kind of envision this center line as well. It's also a tendency I do have. I kind of shift everything over to the left. So I start out, so always like my face is like I had a stroke. It just like kind of moves.
So you're a maximalist and a leftist.
Yes, I am.
And you try to correct that.
I'm trying to find a middle ground, which takes me forever. And then I try to establish, so you have the heights, and then I'm not allowed to go beyond that, which I always do. And then I try to also focus on just finding the actual head. Because I know in the beginning when you start painting, it's so interesting with the eyes and like the little details of the face, but that's something you just need to leave to the very end. So you need to paint everything around and then the eyes happen, you know. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I need to look at myself now, not you. It's I just paint you as we go.
Fine.
So, and I try to establish kind of like what kind of tilt I want on my head and all this. So I'm just going to do a really boring thing and do completely frontal, I think. Just keep my head straight.
The safest thing to do.
Easiest. No, don't say that. Okay. So then I tried to figure out, like, kind of try to find this kind of triangle also, like separating the forehead from the lower part of the face, and then focusing on like the shape of maybe my forehead, and then in relation to this kind of triangle thing that happens from underneath my eyes and to my chin. So that's kind of, to get those proportions, that's like the most important thing at first. And then get the sensation of actually bone and a skull under there.
That's fascinating that you to really start with the basic structure.
Yes.
I mean, when you say you sort of reminds me of what Rodin did with the Burghers of Calais.
Yeah.
Where he modeled them nude. And then clothed the sculptures.
Yes, which makes sense because then it's all right. Because you can't just drape it because it needs to have something underneath. It's so, when you paint like classical like this and figures in the classical tradition, everyone can tell when it's not working. So it's really transparent what you do and what you did not understand. It's so visible on the canvas. It's not even funny. It's just like whatever you do wrong, they all know. Even the people that say they don't know anything about painting, they know. So, okay, and you see already I'm pushing it over to to the side, going great. Okay.
Politically quite suspicious.
Yes, very, very suspicious. Okay. And then I have like this is about my eyes. This is very kind of blocking in, as we say at the academic world. And then I try to figure out kind of how far out my eyes will be. And I think it's going to be something about here. And then I'm actually going to maybe have one light and one dark brush. Makes life a little bit easier. So, okay. And then, let's see. And now I have kind of a dark ground because I started a painting on this before, which I just wiped out.
Oh, those are the best canvases.
Didn't paint that long on it, but yes, it helps. So it was this kind of awful purpley color, so I kind of put on my mud color, my favorite one, to try to help, save the day. Okay, so I'll just like start to... I don't always start the same way, you know, it's just like kind of... Just trying to block this in and to not... Okay, let's see.
So you really sort of take out all details.
Yes, just make it completely flat, really. Make it flat to obtain form. So I'm really, and as you see, it's very flat light. So you have like a division. It's like warmer, closer to us, and then it kind of recedes into cooler tones. And then you have still kind of this. Sorry, yes.
No, I interrupted you. Sorry.
No. Yeah. So I'm trying. Then you looking at this kind of shape here with these, this whole frontal plane here, and then also making sure that you get the sensation that the skull kind of move backwards like this as well. So let's see. And then
any conscious ideas about why you're starting really quite cool on a warm ground? I mean, it was, I guess, accidental that it was this canvas now, but any specific ideas?
I kind of also like to have a warmer ground usually than a cool one, because then you have a bit of kind of, it's like under your skin too is this warm blood, this redness to it. I don't know, so you get this when you can work with the transparency and all this.
You're sort of working from the inside out.
Yes, giving birth to this thing from the ground out. And then obviously also when I glaze over something, this is when you have a dark background and you kind of scumble with a lighter color, it will immediately become very cool. As when you have a light background and you scumble over with something dark, you get like a warm temperature. So that's also something to play around, which I'd love to do eventually. So when you paint and it dries and you can just scumble and use this rag and just paint with that on your fingers, it's a lot of like cool effects.
Well, that's the most, not necessarily exactly what you're describing, but I think the most difficult technique is when you paint as little as possible.
Yes.
To use the ground as much as you can.
Yes.
As an integral part of, obviously, of the.
Yes, so you work your way back to it as well, like sanding and scraping down, which is also something I do a lot. And whenever I run into a problem, I try to fix it by, just piling on paint. So I paint a little bit too thick.
Oh.
Usually. But
you mean that you mean it's sort of an error you do, or you do it consciously to have something to work with?
Oh, I do it like unconsciously and consciously sometimes, and then I like it when I do consciously, maybe to kind of scrape it down to when I paint thick and it dries and I put something on top, I can like scrape down and get like this very nice.
You work with the different
effect.
layers. Yeah.
And I try to kind of, when I have it wet, you can like move it around quite a bit. And then kind of pick out the ground again to get this warmth, which is really nice in the shadow areas, which I then try to keep. So in a lot of schools they talk about, keep the shadows thin and all that, but that doesn't necessarily make them more kind of, atmospheric or anything like that. It's just like, I think when you keep it thin, it's about trying to keep something of the ground, like this effect of this kind of vibration in it. So it's not about just having a flat layer, but this kind of lively thing, and it doesn't necessarily have to be thin at all.
I mean, you see that in Al's paintings, right? When it's painting very thick and then applies these thin layers, sort of adding air on between the canvas and the figure.
Yes.
And that obviously has atmosphere, even though it's thickly painted underneath.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's a rule you hear a lot. But then it's not necessarily kind of, what you need to do. And I feel like already this is growing, starting on the small side. Oh, God.
Thank you for checking out this video from the School of Apelles. To watch the full video and access our premium library, go to caveofapelles.com/subscribe and become a $10 patron. That's caveofapelles.com/subscribe.